Okay, so for this problem, to find the mean and the standard deviation, you can click on this button here and you can open it in Excel. So I've done that and I've actually worked the entire problem, but the first two columns are already there for you. So the best approach to this would be to click on Question Help and view an example and take it step by step. So the first thing that you need to do is set this up as rewrite the distribution as a probability distribution. And the way that you do that is you take all of your frequencies and you add them together. So I did this in Excel. I put equals sum and then I highlighted all of these numbers that are frequency and I get 200. So now I can get the probability of xi, and so the way you do that is you take the frequency of 12 and divide by 200, and then that is how you get 0.06, and then you will do this for each one of these. Take each individual number and divide by 200, and that is how you get the probability of xi. So going back to our question help, it says that notice that you use the formula shown below to calculate the mean. Note that xi is the ith outcome of the discrete random variable x, and pxi is the probability of the occurrence of the ith outcome of x. So to calculate the mean, first calculate the products of xi times pxi. So if we look, xi times pxi, xi is 0, pxi is 0.06. So the formula is this column times this column, and you're going to do that for each one of them. So the next one would be highlight this times this, and you're going to do this for each row. Now, when you get down to the bottom, going back to our problem, you're going to do that for each one until all of the information is filled. Then you're going to sum xi pxi up, and that is your mean. So we have done that here. I did equals the sum of these numbers. Now, everything I've done in Excel you could do in a calculator, but for the recording it's easier to show you a video of a spreadsheet than it is to put it in the calculator. But you could do this in the calculator and write this on paper. So your mean is 3.05, which if you look in our answer, there's 3.05. But we're trying to get to the standard deviation, so we have some more steps. Now we know the mean. Now we can find the standard deviation. And so the formula is the difference between xi and the mean, and we're going to square that difference for each one. And then for each one, we're going to go back and multiply it times p of xi. And then we're going to sum all those answers up and take the square root. Now that's a lot of steps, so let's break it down into individual steps. So xi minus mean squared times pxi. So let's go back to our problem here. So xi minus the mean. So here's xi, and the mean is 3.05. We're going to do that for each individual one. Xi minus the mean, which is 3.05. So we're going to do that for each one. That is the part in the formula where you see xi minus mu, or the mean. And then now we're going to take that and we need to square it. So each one of these numbers we're going to square. Remember, when you multiply a number, a negative number times a negative number, you're going to get a positive answer. So for each one of these xi minus means, we're going to multiply it times itself, or what we call as square it. So this is what we have done here. Now, it's very important in this step, it tells you, and this is why I always encourage you to view an example, it tells you round to 4 decimal places. So you can see in my video that each one of these has been rounding. If you don't round exactly to what the example shows you, then your answer will not be correct. Then the next step is to multiply what we just got when we squared the difference of xi minus the mean. That answer we just got, we have to go back and multiply it by the probability of xi. So here we take the number, I'll show you, we take the number we just got. So you're going to say equals, and you're going to click on this number, and then times the pxi. So for the next one, it would be this number. Hold on. I don't know if it'll let me go back. So for the next one, we're going to take the number we got when we squared it times pxi, and so forth. You'll see that as you move down, it's this column times this column for each individual value. Okay, so now we're at the step where we took the squared xi minus mean number and times it by the probability. So you always have to go back. Once you get the probability, each step you have to multiply by the probability before you're through. Now, once you get those numbers, you sum it up. So we're going to sum it up, and that is the variance. Okay, now going back to our example, the standard deviation is the square root of the variance. Take the square root, rounding to 3 decimal places. So in my spreadsheet, I took the square root and I rounded to 3, or I should have rounded. Let me. Okay, now I have rounded to 3 decimal places. So that is how you work standard deviation and variance when you have to use the probability. It's a little bit more steps, but if you take it step by step, you're less likely to make a mistake. And you also have to view an example. You also have to view an example to see what to round to, because rounding is super important on problems that have multiple steps.